Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is made possible in part by Powerhouse, a Vanbarton Group holding.
Jonathan, can you hear the elevator doors opening?
I just heard the bing. Do you know what that means?
Our next guest has arrived.
Hi, I'm Gila Cohen. I'm a partner and the Chief Investment Officer at the Vanbarton Group. You are in our elevator at Powerhouse. This is our latest office to residential conversion. Vanbarton Group has been around for over 30 years, and we are amazing. I'm here in the elevator because I'm about to do elevator pitch with Jonathan and Mitch. I'm their first guest, and I'm super excited.
Hey, Mitch.
Yes, Jonathan.
Guess who's here?
I think Gila Cohen.
Gila Cohen is here.
Fabulous.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Gila.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure.
So first, I want to just get it right out in the open. Thank you for hosting us here at 160 Water Street, Powerhouse. This is the Vanbarton Group's premier conversion from office to residential. Why don't you tell us a little about it?
Sure. This is the newest building in our office to resi conversion series. We completed it in December 2023 and started leasing it up immediately. We bought this building in 2013 as an office with two plans: hold it as an office or convert it to residential.
So you're underwriting both scenarios?
We do. We always look for a second way out. We think that's a safe way to help and ensure that our investors make money, which is what every real estate company wants to do.
Yes, that is the ideal goal.
When you acquire a property, do you always look for the fact that it can be converted to something else?
An office.
Okay.
We definitely do. But not every building is convertible. Most are, depending on zoning, location, structure, ceiling heights. There are a couple of factors that we keep private in part of this.
Special sauce.
Special sauce. Actually, our special sauce is our people. I think conversions are something that if people tried really hard, eventually they'd get good at. There's an art and there's a science.
So Gil, I'm sure that one size does not fit all. So when you're looking at the asset, how do you think in terms of tailoring it to the local submarket?
We look at many different things. First of all, we want to see what else is in that submarket. Is it close to transit? Are there schools? Who the renter might be? How do we keep them in the building for a longer term? What type of product would be appropriate? We tend to like hospitality quality products, so high end, in order to attract a good renter. And then we want to make sure that we can convert the building, that it has the characteristics we look for, so we're not cramming little things into the building, but making beautiful units and apartments.
So 160 Water Street, or do you like to call it Powerhouse?
Powerhouse.
Okay, Powerhouse. This was not Vanbarton Group's first rodeo.
Absolutely not. We started doing this back in 2011. And we started on the debt side, and we watched the business, and we wanted to see how it worked in a protected position for our investors. And then once we got comfortable, we switched over to the equity side. So really buying assets to hold them as office or to convert them to residential, or both, depending on the time and where we were in the cycle.
Now, historically, do you have a hold period where you're looking to turn the asset?
If we're buying it as a conversion, it's about 18 to 24 months from when we start swinging hammers until the conversion is complete. And then it's about 18 to 24 months until we want to sell the asset. Lease it up, turn the rent roll, and then sell the asset.
So tell us about this building.
This building. We owned 180 Water first, next door. We converted that and sold that in 2017.
So you're not new to the neighborhood.
Absolutely not. Love the neighborhood. We own 175 Water across the street. And then we bought 160 Water right after we bought 180. It took us a while to convince the owners to sell it to us. And we offered them money to leave, and they said absolutely not. It was a great candidate for conversion. It was a single tenant, city agency, and they had no interest in selling. And then Hurricane Sandy came. And if you remember, FIDI was completely
Downtown
flooded.
was flooded,
Downtown was a
absolutely.
disaster
Yes.
area. Mayor Bloomberg enacted all kinds of things in order to get the city back. And one of the things that they looked for was to bring residential tenants into Lower Manhattan. And all of a sudden, we got a call from the owner of the building.
Now, did you?
Saying, we'd love to take that offer. And we're like, what offer? That was so long ago.
That was then, and this is now.
That was so Hurricane Sandy ago.
Fast forward, we bought the building from them at a nice discount. We're able to convert it and then really turn it around very quickly. And now, at the moment, it's on the market.
Now, I want to pick up, you said the word hospitality.
I did.
And we are sitting here in this little studio in one of your signature elements in this building. So share with us the thinking, the planning for this amazing hospitality that you have here.
The residential world has changed based on the younger generation that's living in higher quality apartments. They like to be with other people, although not at work, because they like to work at home. But
That's changing, though.
it is changing, and I agree that it's a good thing that it's
Yeah.
coming back.
Yes.
But what we strove to do was to create efficient units, smaller, where you have a studio or a one-bedroom, but 450 to 550 square feet of space, and create living areas where you could go and be with other people. Or you take your 450 square foot studio, and all of a sudden, when you rent one of these living rooms that have a couch and a TV and a beautiful dining area, and upstairs in the special signature units that we have on the amenity floor that even have an outdoor fire pit and a cooktop, so you could bring in a chef, or you could have a cooking competition with your friends or host a Thanksgiving dinner, which you can't host in your 450 square foot unit. You're now creating a $35 million Park Avenue penthouse feel at the price of a couple $100s to rent it for an evening, anytime you want, because it's only available to tenants.
And how do you make something like that pencil out?
You got to buy it right. I mean, that's really
That's
the
it.
bottom
That's
line.
it.
If
You
you
make your
buy,
money on the buy.
if you buy it well, then
Okay.
it works. But there are fees that you charge for your tenants to be in a building like this, amenity fees, and you give them the opportunity to have things that they wouldn't have in a typical lower quality, not hospitality quality building.
And in this particular building, I think you even built on top of the existing premises.
We did. Part of the art of office to residential conversions is understanding where you can and can't add units, how the building can support it, working with structural engineers to make sure, and really good architects, to make sure that you're designing a product that is sustainable. This building, by the way, has the ability to be net zero if we want it, or New York City guidelines instructed us to do so, or our investors really wanted it. But also has the ability to add units and create additional spaces on top of the existing structure in a thoughtful and well-engineered way, without touching the foundation.
So I want to drill back down on the amenities, because where we are now, we're in this, as I said, it's this beautiful space, but there's 2 bowling lanes, there's a billiards room, there are other living room, I'll call it a living room, but living
space,
areas.
yeah.
Talk to us about the design.
The design. Our head of asset management, who is fantastic, worked very hard thinking about all the different amenities that would be valuable to someone living in the building, where they could stay in and work, live, and play. So upstairs on the 14th floor, our amenity floor that we added onto the building is a stunning roof deck and a big co-working space. and little Zoom rooms where you could go if you're working from home and have that work balance. Play, we wanted to have these living areas, bowling, billiards, simulator, golf simulator, other sports simulator.
You have a fitness center?
An amazing fitness center, which gets used a ton. Children's area. We really wanted to provide a full-service building where residents could stay and play and live. So it's the entire full package that you want to provide to people nowadays who are looking for things to add, not just a living space.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is made possible in part by Powerhouse. Life at Powerhouse shines brightly. It's where smart design meets condominium quality finishes. Powerhouse, the beauty of smart living.
So how was the lease up? What was the timeline from C of O to full occupancy?
It's funny you asked that. This was a very interesting story. So in December 2023, we had completed about the first third of the building. We had a sidewalk bridge, a hoist elevator, we're banging, and the way we do it is we complete 200 units, and in this building there are almost 600 units, and then another 200. So we get the TCO, and we opened our leasing office. In 90 days, the first 200 units were all leased up. There were no amenities, tons of construction going on, banging on top of your head, and people moved in. Every unit was taken in 90 days. The lease-up was fantastic.
What do you attribute that to? Is it price point? Is it location? Is it quality? All of the above?
I think it's a bit of both,
Yeah.
right? This was December 2023, so you're think about the timing. People were looking for new supply to come online. New York City is one of those places that never has enough supply, no matter what's going on.
That is so correct.
And if you think about the statistics of it, New York City issues about 27,000 new construction permits every year. They need over 100,000 units every year to not even keep up with the demand, but just to touch it. So even if we did 50,000 conversions, which nobody is doing, but even if you were doing 50,000 conversions, you're still not keeping up with the demand. So there is a real incentive to bring new supply online. New York City Economic Development is being very supportive. City of Yes passed this year. There's some new legislation coming on in the summer. There really is a push to add units in Manhattan. So add the supply constraints with the fact that 200 new units came online in Lower Manhattan. We're a block from the Tin Building. We're a block from the Fulton Street Station. We're in an amazing location where you have some views, but really very nice units, high ceilings, beautiful spaces to play in, and people really wanted that.
And so you acquired something just down the street as well recently.
We did. At the beginning of December, we closed on 77 Water, which is another office building that's been here forever. We helped make sure that it was vacant in advance of closing. And now we just swung hammers about 2 weeks ago to start the demolition.
And how long does it usually go from from construction to leasing? What is the usual timeline?
18 to 24 months. And typically we can get it all done in 18 months.
What's the unit makeup at 77 Water?
Don't know exactly. There are studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. And I think we're doing just a handful of 3 bedrooms because the tenant base has changed. If you think about what's going on with mortgage rates, supply of housing selling outside of the city, typically if you were a young couple, you'd live in the city. You'd get married, you'd have a child, maybe you would stay in the city until you have 1, maybe 2 children, but then you'd buy a house, you'd move out to the suburbs, you'd have the grass, you'd have the schools, everybody was moving. Much harder to find houses out there. People aren't selling because mortgage rates are high and housing costs are high, and the boomers have just decided they're going to stick around with their 2.5% or 3% mortgages because they don't have anywhere to go where they're not going to encounter the same issue. And renters are staying longer in the city.
It's really interesting. I just read something. It's a real fact that Generation X just turned 60.
Wow.
You talking about us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
I'm much younger than the two.
Yeah, thank you. But I want to talk about you in a moment. Can you just walk us a little through Vanbarton Group? Just give us a little of that, and then I want to find out more about you, Gila.
Yeah, and your role, because it sounds like this building is now stabilized and on its own, and you're moving on to 77 Water?
We are.
And other projects, perhaps.
Absolutely.
So what takes up your day?
What takes up my day? Well, let me roll back for a second and talk about the Vanbarton Group.
Sure.
Because this is a firm that I met in intensity in 2017 when I joined Mitsubishi MUFG as the CIO. And what struck me is that Gary and Richard, who are the two partners who've been together for 30 years, have built an enormously successful business with very few people knowing about them. Quietly going about their business.
That's rare. That's rare in our
It is.
business.
And
Certainly in real estate,
I say not everybody knows about them. I think that's a bit of a misnomer.
Those in the know.
Those in the know.
Yeah.
They've been in the business for a really long time, successfully navigated many different cycles, nurtured and mentored 53 people, built a fantastic following of institutions, large separate account clients who've grown with them over the years, and done it in a way with grace and dignity and doing things the right way. And that, I think, is hard to achieve. We all know that there are some, less fun people in our real estate
But
business.
what was the big attraction? Because you left a world where you were dealing with trillions
Yeah,
of
you're
dollars.
the CIO of
Yeah.
a $3.5 trillion
That's a serious AUM
organization.
number.
Serious AUM.
Yeah.
Well, let's just repeat that again. $3.5 trillion.
That's with a T?
Trillion
That's
with
with
a
a
T.
With a
With a
T,
T.
yes.
Exactly. I think that's the most interesting question. I spent nearly 6 years at the bank, working and looking at almost 6,000 managers during that time. I had a cross-section of private equity, private debt, venture, and real estate.
Okay.
And the CEO who I reported to had moved on. The business changed during COVID. We started doing fun things, but different things than I originally set out to do. And I decided that I wanted to do something where I would be with people who were like-minded for the rest of my career. And I look for 3 things when I hire people and 4 things when I go work with people. The 3 things I look for are drive, because I think if you have drive, you will always be successful, because you'll work at it and work at it and work at it.
You're either wired for that or you're not.
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
innate. Curiosity. If you're curious, you'll continue to want to learn. I'm a lifelong learner, and I always look for people who want to learn more, want to do more, ask questions, and use that as a catapult to being better at what they do. And then thinking out of the box about ways to achieve what they want to achieve. And I think that goes together with drive. The last bit is ethics. I look for people who are ethical, because you don't want to work with assholes. And you want to work
What do you call that rule again?
The no asshole
the no
rule.
asshole rule. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You want to work with good people, but not just people who are ethical, people who are thoughtful, people who share your values, people who want to do good and make money.
And people who you don't mind spending a lot of time with.
That's right. And you can't figure that out in a minute.
Right.
Richard Coles, one of my partners, came to see me in 2017 at Mitsubishi and talked to me about the firm in earnest. And I had known about him and Gary through other people in the market, and it was a meeting of the minds. And once I listened to Richard, I really wanted to get to know them. I spent a long time getting to know them, getting to know the firm, spending time with them, and assessing if my initial gut feeling was the right one. And it was.
Well, you're actually talking about empathy as well.
Empathy is important too, yes, which you have. Not Mitch, though. No. And
We're working on it.
Working on it. But can I ask?
Yeah.
It seems to me that your role at Vanbarton Group brings you closer to the real estate.
It does.
You're in the trenches.
So when I left the bank, I had choices. Should I go to private equity? Should I go to private debt? Should I spend time in venture, or do I want to be in real estate? And real estate has the nicest people. And I wanted to be with the people I like, doing fun work where you can make money, have fun, learn something new, and touch the assets. And frankly, the people were what won me over. And Richard and Gary were definitely that. The rest of the firm was amazing. And I joined them in February of 2024, so it's just a year, as a partner and the chief investment officer.
So let's work back, because you said real estate we're the good people.
Good people.
The good people, the fun people.
The people I like.
Why don't you dial us back a bit about where you started your career, because it certainly wasn't in real estate.
Definitely not.
Let's talk about your journey.
Oh, do we have to? I'm old. It's a long journey.
It's a long journey. We have time, and we're in a beautiful set.
Okay. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Something Jonathan didn't know.
I did not know
Wow.
that.
Wow.
I grew up in
That's the show me
Beverly
state.
Hills until I was 9, and then I spent 10 years overseas, and then I came to New York, which is where everybody wants to go when they're 19.
Yes.
If you can make it here,
You can make it anywhere.
right?
I feel pretty good about that.
I heard that line before. That was good. Did you make that up?
I did. I just made that
I
up.
like that. I started my career in banking, in a big bank, and I spent my time going back and forth between big banks and small institutions. And I will tell you, at 55, that small institutions are much more fun.
Well, 1 second, but you did not major in finance when you went to college.
No, I'm an art history major.
Art history.
I do like the math.
Well, that's a natural segue to real estate, right?
Absolutely. Well, architecture, art history,
true.
think about it. There's a good bend there.
And if I recall properly, that you had thought about going to medical school.
I had, and in fact, the gentleman who was my mentor was on a Super Bowl commercial. He was the head of the Hospital for Joint Diseases, and he was on the NYU Langone commercial.
Oh, the football
dancing
player
around.
ones. Okay.
Exactly. Dr. Joseph Zuckerman.
Did he give you any particular advice?
He did.
Tell us about that
This
advice.
is very important. This is impactful.
Impactful. The year I was getting ready to take my MCATs, HMOs became a thing.
Yeah.
And all the doctors in the hospital were running scared. Shit, we're not going to make any more money. Medicine is going to be completely different. Nobody really knew where it was going. And he sat me down and he said, "You're too smart to be $1 million in debt before you even become a doctor."
You're too smart. Have you ever heard that?
I've never heard that.
No, nor have
one's
I.
ever told me
Nor
I'm too
have I.
smart.
Sorry, guys. And he said, "Go get recruited on campus." And I did. And I went to Solomon Brothers, and everything from there is just history.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is made possible in part by Powerhouse. Life at Powerhouse shines brightly. It's where smart design meets condominium quality finishes. Powerhouse, the beauty of smart living.
Now, was there a path that you set out early on, or how did things just happen for you?
My good fortune in life is to have had fantastic mentors. People who I looked up to, people who helped guide me, and people who, good luck, brought me to their realm and helped me through my career. And I think that I owe a lot of my successes to them. They taught me a lot. And I was a rough kind of gal. I was young, and I had a lot of drive and ambition. And
Now, did you think you knew it all back then?
oh my God, absolutely.
Of course.
Gila, what's really important in all of that is you also knew how to listen.
I got better at it. I didn't
yeah.
listen so well then. But now I'm a bit better, and I will still tell you I'm not as good as my partners. They are fantastic listeners, and this goes back to the lifelong learning. I'm still trying to get better at it.
So what would you suggest to our viewers who are looking to carve a path in real estate, listening to your particular journey? What particular advice can you give?
Find good people to talk to. Listen. Make sure you're driven. Make sure you're thoughtful. And make sure you have good ethics. And that'll take you all the way. And of course, watch the podcast.
Well, of course.
100%.
So a couple of other questions. Just a little about you. I understand that you became a grandmother 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago?
Almost 2 years ago. This summer it'll be 2 years.
That's
yeah.
an awesome club to be in.
It is the best club to be in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Young grandma, 55, but I will tell you that it is about as good as having your own kids, having a grandchild, but then you can just hand them back.
Yes. Yes.
She's a joy, so it makes life very easy.
So are you grandma, granny?
Her Majesty.
Her Majesty.
course.
My
Yes.
husband is His Honor. But we go by Grandma and Grandpa, yes.
A couple of other questions, just in general. What are you reading these days?
I'm rereading The Power Broker.
Oh, really? Robert Moses.
Big book,
Yes.
very heavy, hard to take around. I like to read the actual books, not just read them on my phone. And I read when I travel, so now I'm lugging this, 5-pound book around. But a fantastic book describing how to change things in a very unchangeable world. How to bring some vision and foresight and change when people aren't open for it.
Don't you think that's a must-read for any generation looking to be in our business or any part of the business world?
Any business.
I mean,
think
Robert Moses is a legend in New York.
You're absolutely right. And not just in New York. Robert Moses changed so many things. He just brought a real change of vision. And we're sitting in a building that is a change of a vision. And it always makes me think about how people need to be open-minded about change. That is a lesson for everyone.
Well, I think that's an amazing place to finish. What do you think, Mitch?
I think fantastic. I think we're almost ready for our lightning round.
Lightning round. You go for it, Mitch.
Lightning round. Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Ice cream in a bowl or cone?
Cone.
Is it better to be lucky or good?
Smart.
There you have it. Last question, just to dig a little deeper. Share with our viewers one thing about you that nobody knows.
Wow, that's hard. I'm a pretty open book.
There's got to be something.
I
First time
First
you're sharing
time.
it.
Ooh, this is really, 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 really rough. My favorite color is black.
I couldn't tell.
And you're sporting it tonight.
I could not tell.
I am.
Well, Gila Cohen, thank you for joining us on Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch.
Taped at the fabulous Pearl House. Thank you, Gila.
Thank you for having me.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch was made possible in part by Powerhouse, a Vanbarton Group holding.